So as Africans, we really need to do some analysis on who we really want to be and who we are, because we have this whole mixture of culture and tradition. Yeah, and when you trace it back, it's more of a colonization, more than your culture. But someone has now adapted it. I've always said that as a leader, you need to have a time frame of your leadership, you know, and clear vision on when you really want to attain whatever change you want to bring about in your leadership role. And once the time has actually passed by, give it to someone else.
Yeah. How are you guys? We about to blow up? All the way up. I just want to give you that idea that this is a space whereby you can let loose, sit back, relax. Welcome to the next thing that's gonna blow up. It's been a minute since we recorded here, guys. This feels nice. And today we have a special guest. I mean, another blowing up individual. You know, here we don't play games. We bring you the people that are doing phenomenal work. We want you guys to see the process, you know, not just the results, but the process behind the geniuses in Swaziland. This is where you find them. And today, I have none other than Nokuthula Mamba. I'll let you introduce yourself. Nokuthula, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Kutai. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to finally have you here. But before we jump deeper, can you just introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you. Okay. I really don't know where to start with the introduction. But yeah, I think as Kutai has introduced me, I am Nokuthula Mamba, a young lady who is Swazi and also a born-again Christian. Should I say lover of life? But man, I'm so in love with being alive and doing things with people. And yeah, I think that's where I can end for now, as we'll be discussing more about myself today. So maybe let me just end it here.
All right, cool. Let's just start from the beginning. You know, you've been doing phenomenal work. I've been seeing you from afar. I started looking at you. I remember it was early this year. That's when I actually reached out to you, I think. Yeah, and it was after noticing, you know, the work that you've been doing with the youth especially. But I'm just curious, you know, how did it all start? Where did the motivation come from, you know? Yeah.
How did it all start?
How did it all, where can you pinpoint? Could it be maybe it's a lot of events that you can then say, you know, it's there, or it's just one particular, you know, like you dreamt about it, maybe God told you.
Oh man, searching for your purpose has been such a journey for me. You know, all being involved in development work didn't just start with Youth Sustainable Development Center. I would say it's really started way back, not in high school or what, but I would say university. I was very much exposed to youth leaders at university, whereby young people are actually self-aware of themselves, of what is it that they want to do, and basically the opportunities around them. And that was a very inspirational moment for me. It actually called out for me to do some soul searching. What is it that I'm all about? Yes, I have the capabilities of being someone, but where do I want to see myself? What issues would I like to address with myself? As myself, I remember then, I think in second year, I had an interest of joining Swazi Talks society, whereby I was like, we can do so much as a society studying in this institution. We can do so much for Swazi students, and we can do so much also for Swazis in Eswatini, you know. So through Swazi Talks, we tried to organize so many charitable activities, whereby we had events where we invited Swazis were actually successful in terms of after completing their academics, and they came just to motivate Swazi children, because that university life is much harder than we think. And and then we tried to have a pet drive in the country, whereby we really wanted as Swazi Talk students to do some activities, just inspiring children in the country. And I think also I was involved with a locally founded non-profit organization that was actually founded by other Swazis who were studying also at the University of Pretoria. So we got to go and attend some of the activities. I think one that really touched me a lot was an activity that we did at a charity, at orphanage home, whereby we just interacted with the girl children. It was a women and girl focused organization. So we were called, whereby we had different interactions with girls, and we're just motivating them to not look at the obstacles they are faced with today, but be futuristic, think about what is it that they want to achieve in the future, and what is it that they can actually do to achieve that. So it was I've had so many inspirational moments. And then after experiencing all that, I tried to track back my life, the young people that I've actually grew up with, and my high school really, and I took note of how we haven't really utilized, firstly, our talents, reaching our full potential as just young people in the country. And I was like, there's so much that we need to do. And also maybe my field of study really exposed me to a lot. I'll say God did give me with some brilliancy, and I've had really the experience of really also understanding that part, and just thinking of how best can I use the brains that God has gifted me with. I really enjoyed the course that I was doing, that exposed me to a number of issues that, especially in Africa, we are faced with, politics, economics, governance issues. And then that when I really thought, you know what, I could work in the non-profit sector, other than working as a diplomat or for government on foreign relations. My main interest was to actually driving development change.
So you do not work for profit?
No, I have never really had an interest of working for profit. I feel like there's so many of us who are actually focusing on that journey of being employed by the biggest corporate in the country, those dreams, corporate girl and all. For me, it was more of like, how can we address issues of inequalities, issues of conflict, issues of unequal access to resources. There's so many issues that are there, and there's so much limited institutions that are actually equipped or fully involved in how they can best also work with government on ensuring that development is more of people focused. It's not just moving around whereby people do not even know what is my role as living in the society. How you just leave, you wake up, you're told, the bread price actually went up, and you're like, okay, cool. And you get, you move into your workplace, you start working and all that, without really taking an interest in your community, your environment, wherever you are. I believe that as people, we're not planted on earth to attend our primary school, secondary school, go to university, and from university you start working so that you can get a paycheck. No, we were all born with our different purposes, So I've been lucky to actually understand my purpose at a very much younger age, which has actually been mostly of the direction. And I think I've also been lucky of literally seeking God with everything that I do.
Right. So God is at the center of it. Jeez. Who is God to you, if I may ask?
Who is God to me, if I may? If you may ask, I'll say that God is really, he's not human, but he is more of the foundation of humanity. Okay. If I could put it that way. He is the father of everyone. He is loving, caring, he's not a being, but he has so much power and love for everyone despite our differences. And we are who we are because of him. just every time when I see a person, to me, it's not just you are you, Kutai. You are that beat of God, you know. In all, we're all
So
made
it's like
of.
we all have like an element of God in us.
Yes, we do have an element of God because we're made of His image.
Okay, cool. I was just curious, you know, because I find that a lot of people say God, 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 but they don't know. If I ask who is God, a lot of people can't answer me.
I think maybe let's not really get into that.
I was just
Maybe
curious, yeah, I
it's just
understand.
that maybe I'll say, like, most of the time we assume when people talk about God. I think I did explain that when I was to introduce myself, and I'm a born again Christian, so that is my God according to Christianity. No other, not gods or whatever. He is the God, the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son.
Okay,
Yes. It's that
Anyway,
kind.
earlier you mentioned something. You know, you learned in SA, your varsity. Would you say that was something that opened up your eyes and helped you to become who you are, or it really didn't add anything to who you are today? Because I've lived in 3 countries, been to I think 5 or 6 countries, and maybe I'm biased, but I like to say, you know, maybe that helped me somehow to become who I am today. So I'm just curious, did you have that same experience, you know, when you went to SA and learned, and did that trigger you into founding YSD? YSD, correct?
YSTC.
YSDC, yes.
I'll say it was one of my best experiences ever in life. It was more of an awakening call that you have so much potential, but you are downplaying it. You know, in the Swatini, we're all just moving. But SA is quite competitive. You are good enough, but you need to be the best. So it really taught me that I need to fight for who I want to be. You know, I can't just relax and keep it moving. No, that's not life. You need to have the spirit of actually fighting and ensuring that you become the best of what you want. Not moderate, not average, no, the best. So I think I really struggled at first because I thought, man, I'm smart. I remember one of the lecturers telling us that you all got here because you are brilliant, but it's not all of you who actually make it. Because it's not about the brilliance that makes you survive those places. It's about how much work you put in. You know, and that was the most wake-up call for me, because it was totally a new environment. Everyone is just like, majority of the people that I was so close with, especially in my first year, they were so self-aware. You know, you hear someone that, no, I've dropped international relations and public administration, I'm now studying law, and you're like, wait, you're doing what? You know, that confidence for that person to actually just say that out loudly. They didn't have to say, I have to check with my parents. They didn't have to say, I'm not sure, I'm not really. They just knew that, man, I've attended few lectures of of politics, of public administration, and this is not really what I want. So let me just venture into another course. So that was really interesting for me, because you hardly find that. I think from where I was coming from, especially in high school, you didn't have that. You had people directing you, oh, this is the subject you should take because you're good in math, science, and or commercial subjects. So you should do this, and you could be this and this and that. But there was just these young people who knew what they wanted. And more than that, I think I was exposed to say that you as a young person, you have so many capabilities. You can be gifted in terms of academics, but it doesn't mean that you can only rely on academics. You have other talents that you can explore, sporting talent, music. Like, you know, it was an environment whereby you interact with so many gifted people.
Exactly.
So you do not really see yourself as the only shining star, but there are also other shining stars around you. But that also doesn't really take away from who you are. It basically just means that you should stay who you are, but with focus, and also make sure that you put in the the work that will actually enable you to reach the levels or the heights that you actually need to live. So we're all just being pushed to the ladder. You should have more. I remember this at a time they gave us an assignment and the comment was like, do more reading. Do not just read what you're given to read, you know, the articles that you've been prescribed to read, but go out there, search the world. Knowledge is powerful, you know, and I think that's when I also got the interest of ensuring that people are informed. People should want to know things.
Exactly.
What really makes this work? What really doesn't make this work? And how can I improve this to work for me, for my community, or for just, you know, be a problem solver. Do not just live for the sake of I'm alive.
You know, it just reminded me when, so I was living in Malawi then, and I was doing my Form 3 or 4. I started going to the U.S. Embassy, and because I wanted to learn in the USA. So I looked at the application process, and the questions that they were asking me, I'm like, why are you asking me these questions at this age? You know, they are looking at how much have you given back to the community. You know, the questions like, why do you want to attend this university? You don't, and they're like, don't tell us because you've got a good program. What are you going to add to the university? You know, that, you know, speaking of self-awareness, that made me self-aware, you know, because I started looking deeply, and I started also being strategic. Now, because I knew, like, I've just been going to school to learn. I know I'm good in school, but what else? I can show nothing else, you know. And it was so eye-opening, and I think that made me do a lot of initiatives, you know. And it's just been amazing. I think it's really key to be self-aware. But then now there's one particular thing you are really interested in. It's youth and women. I want to know why.
I think the main interest of youth and women is that from my experience, work experience and personal experiences, I've realized that they are vulnerable or marginalized, you know, as much as they form majority of Eswatini and global population, but they're the most marginalized group. But it's not something that is new. It's something that's dates back, or it's due to historic practices as women and young people were viewed as secondary citizens. You know, when you look at the leadership structure from family to community to our institution, community, regional or national institution, a leader is seen as, a man is seen as a better leader. So if it's only us men sitting in the table and making decision, who do you think we're going to put first?
Man.
In decision? Yeah, man. So all the focus was, all the things that were being done or created or developed were focusing more on man issues. How can we maintain our power as man? As much as there has been so many challenges or so many systems that really brought all of us to where we are now, looking at the issue of colonization, the issue of independence, especially with African countries, the issue of new political systems coming into place. Where do we come from? We have your communism, you have the liberals, you have so many now. We even have feminism, that people, other issues, social and political issues, apartheid, conflict, you know, it's been at the forefront. And then you have also the part of culture whereby women, you know, they're just being moved around. You're born into your family, yes, but the way that especially girls and women were treated back then in terms of culture and tradition, I don't think it was a really fair way of being treated as a human being, because I really base all my beliefs on humanity, you know. And then you come back to where we are today, where we think that we've progressed. You know, we think that, but there's been so many things that have been done, but it's not enough. So that's why I've had so much interest into ensuring that women and young people are not just seen as tokens, but they're seen as human beings. And also why I believe in feminism so much, because it's just allowing people, everyone, women, children, people living with disabilities, men, to come as who they are. Not what you've been socialized to be, not what someone superior than you thinks you should be, but it's just basically saying come as you are, and you should all be treated equal to access of opportunity, equal to enjoying life, equal to in terms of making decisions for yourself and for others. You shouldn't just think about yourself, but you should think about everyone else, which is what humanity is all about. But it's so funny when now you engage people on especially the concept of feminism that is just literally looking into the issue of equality or equity. Now people are like, no, we don't understand. It's just trying to, disrupt the whole living system, disrupt family structures. And they're not really looking into, it's also trying to address issues of inequalities and not just sexism inequalities, economic, social, cultural, civil, and political inequalities that we are seeing in our communities and I think in Eswatini. Yeah. So
it's funny because recently, there is a friend of mine. It's like my eyes are just being opened. So the way he explains this whole structure of family, like how women are seen as weak in the society, and then he started breaking it down. And the perfect example would be if a man dies, like a married couple and a man dies, the likelihood of a woman surviving is very high. But if a woman dies, literally, I'm sorry to say this, guys, men are like babies, especially when you are married. Like, the woman does everything in the house. And this happens even if my mom was to leave the house. There's nothing functions in the house. It's like a disaster. You're like, yo guys, where are my socks? Where is food? Where? I just remembered one day I was home alone and my family was in Zim. I didn't know where the pots were. I had to call them. I'm like, guys, where are the pots? I want to cook. And that was like a week after they had gone. So this whole time, I wasn't even cooking. Until then, I'm like, you know what? Let me finally cook. And I'm like, where are the pots? And then when I started looking at all these examples that the guy was giving me, I realized, we're so blinded, but I don't know what blinds us. And then we devalue women in society. And then we think, when I look at it now, I think they are the strongest of the genders. I don't know if that's correct to say, but there's a lot of things that women do, and we just don't look at it. If all the women were to die today, guys.
I don't think that it would be an issue like that if all women were to die today, if they were to be removed from society or any other. I don't like the whole comparison of people, if women or men or whatever, or children or black and white people and all that. I think the most thing that blinds all of us is privilege. It's hard for me to think about you when I understand, when I am aware that I'm privileged. Whatever your suffering brings, or if your suffering brings privilege to me, I will not also address it,
Exactly.
Because I don't think really men are babies, but because of privilege, they now act like babies. Yeah, because look, why would you think that a man makes a better president if they were babies than a woman? Yet now it's the whole woman who is a leader at home, knowing where everything it is.
Exactly.
Isn't that a whole
where does the problem comes from, really? Where do you think the problem stems from? Why do we have this challenge in the society where there is no equality? Can you pinpoint a thing?
I don't think that we can pinpoint a single thing. I really doubt. It's such a complex issues that have contributed to inequality in the world. I think I've already mentioned the issue of colonization, patriarchal societies that we live in, and also issues of just being selfish as leaders, and also as people expecting someone else to do something on our behalf, not really being people who just want to build, we expect someone to help us out from a certain situation. And also having leaders that think only for their own interests and who are not really people serving, they're serving for their own interests and all that. I think if you can really trace back developmental issues to your colonization or pre-colonization, you realize that it's a number of issues that really contributed to, because you wouldn't say that they were good leaders back then. They were, But I'll say I just want us to bring it back to black communities, especially with Eswatini, the way it is, as black people, we form majority of it. And colonization happened and we gained our independence in, 1968?
I'm not sure when.
So it's been quite a lot, but we haven't really been able to build our communities the way they should. It's so funny at how our whole self-actualizations as a Maswati, our traditionals and culture, they literally draw back into our communities, your chiefdom. You belong somewhere, you belong to someone, you belong, but we have really nothing to show for it. We don't have communities where we say, in our independence, we have managed to build this hospitals, schools that really speaks to our cultural and traditional values. We hardly have that. Most of the infrastructure or the developmental opportunities or gains we have, colonization, missionaries, and all that. And that's one of the things that I've been interested in looking to. How can we be better community builders? Take charge of our community. Have a plan. Okay, in our community, if we could have proper running water and what, come up with scholarship, build companies that give back to our own. Before we start calling someone into order that they're taking advantage of. Have you done anything for our people, our communities? So that's how I think I even came about with starting an NGO, whereby I was like, there is so much accusation of foreign NGOs in Africa. So now, if I could start an NGO that really also deeply understands the issues of Swazi people, young people, and whenever you bring in development, it's not development that is actually taking away from who they are and expecting them to be something else, expecting you to use another name so that you can access our service. No, we're just basically an institution that say, come as you are and let us engage. Come and share your voice the way that you want us. Lead an initiative, take charge.
And giving back, I think it's one important thing that we don't do. That war application I did when going to the US, it also made me realize that, there is, at least in those countries, they have mandatory volunteerism. When you're going to school, part of your coursework is volunteering, and if you don't, you fail. And here, we have nothing instilled in us to give back, and we only take. And even if you look at, perfect example is someone who's renting a house. That house there are many chances, like the percentage of the house going down after someone gets into the house is because in us we are not stewards. We only know how to take. So if I'm renting a house, I'm taking. After 5 months of living, the door is broken, the wall is broken. You see those small things. That's where I think it all starts. We need to cultivate it into the educational system. Like have mandatory volunteerism, and then we teach the kids to give back. And even I think this whole gender equality thing, I think it's good also that you have an organization that works with the youth. You remember that other workshop we had the other day, and I don't remember if there was an LGBTQ member, and then it became like a whole discussion, like the guys, and it was a whole thing. And I think one of the reasons also we have that challenge, just to add on what you say, is we do not understand who we are as people. That's why I asked you earlier also, who is God to you? Because I think that's focal. If we don't understand who God is, we do not understand who we are. because if you're a Christian, we are made in the likeness of God, right? So, like you said, we have an element of God in ourselves. So we identify ourselves a lot with the gender or the skin color. But if you look at it, there's I was looking at this Instagram video, it was really viral. It's a Jamaican guy. He's giving an example of water. It's like if you put water in a glass that's blue, it becomes blue, right? If you put it in a yellow glass, it becomes yellow, but it's still water, right? And I feel like that's also with us. If you put whatever is us in the body, and then we become so attached to the body, you see, and now you think you are blue or you are yellow or you're what, but are you really, you see, that's where I feel like the challenge comes, and then you view another person as different from you, but we are just the same. We're just the same, and when we remove all those barriers that are created by the body and then start viewing each other that, we are all equals, then I feel like, we have solved one of the problem. I don't know what you think about it.
And it's so unfortunate in how we see our differences as a threat to who we are. You know how you can just be you, Kutai, have your own interests and or activities that you partake in, but the minute that I realize that you're so self-aware and you're really so sure about what you want and how you're going to do it, that's when I come in, try to control you, how you shouldn't really enjoy this. I don't know whether it's more of our upbringing or what, where we can't just respect another human being of just choosing to be who they are, unless they are doing something that is also life-threatening to probably you or other people. That's when you can probably intervene, such as how we intervene in issues of gender-based violence. But if it's something that is not really threatening anyone, this other person is just living, I think it comes back to me how people really want to decode how people should dress, type of hairstyle you should have. You shouldn't know you're not a man enough if you have this hairstyle, or if you have an earring, or your dress, the way you wear your shirt, or you're not a woman enough because you're wearing pants, you're not an obedient, respectful woman. I'm like, that's just how I choose to be, but that's not who I am in terms of, we don't even look at issues of, are you kind? Are you able to work with people? Are you a person who brings, yes, are you a person who is loving, brings peace wherever that you, no, but you're just gonna judge you about how you appear, your hairstyle, which is really not relevant on whether are you a good human being, are you really bringing any positivity in spaces that you're in. And hence we are now living in this toxic world that we're in. It's just,
it's quite an interesting thing, that you're just mentioning it, and I'm just laughing. We do this a lot, where we don't look at the true value of a human being, rather than we look at culture. I always like to say that culture should serve. It should not imprison us. It should not imprison us. There's a lot of things, like from my country, where I was born in. For example, there was a period where kids were not allowed to eat meat. You see? And then now it's no longer a thing. But if you continue holding on to that, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, there was a disease that was killing kids. Let's just say that's why that rule was put. Now the disease is no longer there, so it's no longer a thing. It's the same with now. I feel like there's a lot of culture that binds us, don't wear trousers. Maybe at that point, for example, there was a reason for it, and it worked. It served a purpose. Now, what purpose does it really serve? You see, and then it's a whole, and I'm just thinking of another conversation. I just want to hear your thoughts about this also. Specifically, the issue of wearing trousers. I was just having this conversation just yesterday. So it's so funny, and they say women should not wear trousers. And it's religions do it, like a lot of religions, they have that women don't wear trousers. What's your take?
I don't see any problem with really women wearing trousers, because really I've tried to also conduct my own research on really the purpose of not allowing women to wear trousers, but there is not really any good explanation. And when people say, no, it's really a tradition, or it goes back to our history, how we used to be, and like, you have evolved.
Exactly.
You know, there's so many things that have come into our life that has reshaped on who we are and our perception on so many things. The food we eat, our lifestyle, people we interact with, you know, our clothes. So much has happened. And there's just so many some things that people are not willing to let go because they're not directly affecting them. But if they were to directly affect them, that's when you see that most of them would also make have a revolution around it to say, no, it's really an unfair situation, or it's a fair situation, but really there is no proper explanation to say
women should not wear trousers.
Women
It's the point of culture should
serve.
serve. Anything we do as human beings should serve us. It should not imprison us. And that's where I feel like we get it wrong. We hold on to a lot of things because probably our ancestors do them, and then we should, like for example, they will say you should, well, because our ancestors were walking barefoot, should we walk barefoot?
Exactly. There were no cars back then.
Should we also stay in caves? You see, all those kind of things. That's where, as human beings, we hold on to things that do not serve us. We should look at just functionality.
I think maybe also as Africans, we really need to do some analysis on who we really want to be and who we are, because we have this whole mixture of culture and traditions and also colonization. You know, I always make the example of Eswatini, whereby we have even the two government systems, where it's the traditional and the administrative. And traditional, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a man having dreadlocks. You know, you with your infunulo and all your traditional attire and all, that is acceptable. But the minute you enter a government office, you cannot now wear with your hair. And when you and when you trace it back, it's more of a colonization, more than your culture. But someone has now adapted it into a culture. No, it's good. It's not good for a man to work for the government with dreadlocks.
Like, is my dreads gonna stop me
thinking? Like, and you're just like, wait, what do you mean? You mean like the person can't take them back, or what is really wrong with it? It's like even wearing the pants. What's the main issue?
Exactly.
But because the government back then, during the colonization area, more linked to also religion, which is more of a Christianity. But even now, the people who colonized us, the people who told us this is how we're supposed to tread when we have informal environments, and now doing the same.
We are colonizing ourselves.
Yes, they have moved on. They've left us.
They left a system that can continue handling. You know, they don't need to be the drivers of the system. They just imposed subtle things, you know, through just planting things in our heads, and then we then continue, you know, discriminating each other every
and
day.
We have fully adopted that into this is who we are. This is uncultural. This issue that I'm really challenging these days, issues of nationality rights, that have really made me open up to say, like, why do we have such provisions in terms of our legislation that are not who we are? You know, whereby a woman cannot pass the decision if married to a foreign man.
You see, all those kind of things, like, really?
Like, really, does that really make sense to you? Where did you get that? Is it issues? Is something that is founded in our culture and traditions, or this is just something? And when you really trace it back, as in terms of colonization and religion, women were really also second citizens. You're just being passed around with male figures had more superiority than women. But now also when you go back to the culture and traditions, we've had queen mothers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, queen mothers ruling, queen mothers taking decisions.
Queen Gamile, perfect
example. Queen Gamile, and you know, it's so many of us who have been so much touched and inspired by her story, and now we're just challenging, say, let's take it back. Let's try to draw back to our culture and tradition, and also look at is it really this serving the larger population, or it's only serving a few people, or it's just one way of actually certain people holding on to power, feeling like, you know what, I'm still in control. I'm actually able to ensure that someone begs or grovels for my attention or for that person to basically enjoy their life. So yeah, I think there's so many issues that we are faced with as a country and as individuals, which is really calling for soul searching and just being patient with each other and understanding and trying by all means to create an environment where everyone is free, where everyone is free to participate, to contribute, to build, and without all the restrictions, your social, your cultural barriers that are there that really also don't make sense. Tell me why young people can't freely access land in rural areas.
And it just reminded me of a TED Talk. So this girl, it's a school event, school TED Talk. So she's probably 16, and then she says, you say we are the future, but you do not even trust us with the laws of a country. Then how do you say we are the future when you can't trust us with anything? You see, so you need to start trusting us that we can, and then maybe collectively we can build together.
I'm so much in support of intergenerational leadership, and that is the most simplest way of leading any institution, community, or a country, whereby it's everyone represented. It's the old, it's the young, just part and parcel of the decision making and the political platform. But that's not the case. So many, especially young people, leadership skills are undermined. You're too young to think. You're too young to do this. But we trust them so much with even getting married. Starting a family and doing all those things. But when now it comes to that means being a leader, then no, you're too young. And unfortunately, we haven't even seen such great leadership with older people.
That's exactly,
it's so sad that the minute you try to hold someone older than you accountable, it's more like you're now fighting. Yes.
That's why I'm saying culture should serve. You see these culture things where we say young people should not rule or old people should. Let's challenge that cultural norm and see if it works. Because especially in Africa, kudos to the first leaders. What they did is fine. The independence, whatever, fighting. Thank you, guys. Now let's look at the leadership that they have done. Most of them didn't do so well.
I think one thing that we struggle with is actually understanding that you've done well, you've played your role. Now give it to other people. I've always said that as a leader, you need to have a time frame of your leadership, and clear vision on when you really want to attain whatever change you want to bring about in your leadership role. And once the time has actually passed by, give it to someone else. Because even if you have 5 goals with your leadership role and you are able to attain 3, don't push for more time so that you can attain the 2, because it probably just tells you that you have limited capabilities. Now give someone else a chance. I think with all the institutions that I've served in, it's really been something that I've been really leading with, that issue of I'm here, but I'm not here forever. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do, achieve whatever. If I can't, I need to understand that someone else has to come after me. I serve in a number of organizations. Even when I did the introduction, I serve at church, part of the Youth Fellowship Committee. I serve for 3 non-profit organizations. Okay, I can say 2. I'm the Secretary General of Lipimbula Bomaga, the Women's Coalition in the country. I also serve as a board member for Waka Imvota, the main mentoring organization. So I'm very much interested into building an equal community in the country whereby every citizen is represented and is fully capacitated to participate and to engage in all the spheres of development or governance that we have in the country.
Mutula, sorry, we have to cut this short. I wish we had more time to continue talking about this. But anyway, this is a journey. We can always do this again at another time because, you know, we're blowing up. We know there will be phases. We'll continue talking, but it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming. And if you've liked what you have seen, people, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But before you go, when can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm basically everywhere. I believe in visibility. Noctula Mamba. That's who I am.
Most definitely. I'll also link here down below. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. And for me, Kudzam Shambi, Noctula Mamba, we're out.